everyone. It's Cindy here, getting ready to sit down with you and go over a few basic yoga moves. So I mentioned in a video the other day that I wanted to challenge each of you to get out and do something active every day, and that I was going to try to post something, even if it was something minimal. And that was Thursday and today's Saturday, and I haven't done it yet. So, but today I'm going to. I've got my blanket here that I like to sit on. I've got my yoga mat. It's about all I'm going to need today. Today's video, I want to go over some basic things with you. One reason why I want to get together with you all and just kind of start from scratch is I've had a few of my friends mention to me that they've not really practiced yoga before, and so maybe hoping someday that they could keep up with my videos. So I thought, you know what, maybe for my friends that I would kind of start with some basics and explain the moves, explain the appropriate posture for the moves, and maybe go over even some benefits physically as well as even mentally or emotionally, so that whenever you do a practice, whether it's virtually in your own home or you are at a studio somewhere, it will help you be able to move through the flow with that teacher and the class. So let's get started. I'm going to start in a seated position here. The things that I want to go over today are breath, mirroring breath and movement. I'm going to go through some basic seated positions and then move to mountain and tall mountain, and I think we'll end there. So even being seated and being in mountain pose, which is a basic standing pose, there are benefits and there are proper ways to hold your position. So, but first, breath. So the yogic word for breath is pranayama. And obviously we all breathe every day, right? But do we really take nice deep breaths and exhale everything? I know I don't. Oftentimes whenever we're anxious, we have anxiety, people hyperventilate, it's because they're not completing their breath cycle. We also know that whenever we are angry or frustrated, if we take time to stop, count to 10, or take time to stop, take 3 breaths, it calms our nervous system, it calms our minds, it even helps alleviate headaches. So there's just so many benefits to it. So one of the great things about yoga is we mirror the breath to our movements. It's really a scientific thing, which I'm not going to get into because I couldn't explain it well anyway. Elle from Yoga Buzz is amazing at explaining it. But what I can tell you is that it works and it helps. And when you're going through it, you're so focused on your movement and what you're doing that it automatically clears your head, and you really can't think about all the stress and the challenges and whatever else you've got going on before or after the practice. So we'll start with breathing. So the intent is to take a nice deep breath in, and maybe even hold your hand on your tummy and on your chest so you can feel it. So you inhale nice and deep, and then you exhale. And when you exhale, you push it all out. I know when I teach that I don't always release like I should because I'm focusing on the next move, and so I really try to think about that. To help you make sure that you say, well, how do I really know? Well, if you count. So if we take an inhale and we count to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then when we exhale, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. the breath comes in at the same rate and it goes out at the same rate, and you should be pushing it all out then. You can even go a little further and you can hold it, and that helps to send that oxygen into your bloodstream and your muscles, and it really helps even calm the mind. So let's do that again, but we're going to hold it for 6. So let's take our inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That helps us to control our breath, which helps us, over time you'll see, control your mindset, control your anxiety. If you can practice your breathing at times when you really need to focus on your breath off of the mat, you'll see the benefit to it. So we always start off with focusing on our breath. Pranayama. And there are several different breathing methods that you could do, which I'm not going to go into all of those. The point is to inhale and to exhale. Usually through your nose. Sometimes if you need to cool your body down though, you can inhale and then exhale through your mouth. And oftentimes hearing that verbal or that audible noise come out of your mouth is cleansing as well. So practice that at home. Now, there are a few different ways that you can sit in a yoga position. A lot of times when you start a practice, a lot of teachers start in a seated position. Not always, but a lot of times they do. So this is easy pose. I always like to sit on a blanket. You saw me folding my blanket before we sat down. It helps me, and what I do is I have it like on the back side of my sit bones so that it helps me to kind of roll forward a little bit, because I've got such a short waist, it helps me to elongate my spine. Otherwise, it's a little bit harder for me to do. I have to push a little bit further, so I just move up and I just kind of put it right on the edge of my sit bones. But this is easy pose, and so you think about having your tailbone sort of in, your core is engaged, so think about bringing your belly button back towards your spine. Your shoulders are rolled back and lowered just a little bit so that you're opened through the chest here. And your chin comes down so that your top of your head is parallel to the ceiling, unless you have a arched ceiling like I do, or an A type ceiling. Shoulders though, you don't want them up here around your ears, or you don't want them up here. You want them back, and just, you don't force them down, just naturally back. And then you can rest your hands on your knees. You could sit in prayer pose. My legs are crisscross applesauce. And you could put them any way you want. And sometimes you can even change it out, because it's going to feel different no matter how you sit. So you might start in this nice easy pose. And the benefits, this is the benefits of the easy pose for your body is that it helps to stretch your hips out a little bit. It strengthens your back, calms the mind and the body. Now, one caveat to this is if you have bad knees, this may not work for you. I know a lot of guys that have taken my class have a very difficult time sitting in this position. Number one, their hips are usually tighter, and so they end up kind of like this, or it's really too hard on their knees. So another option is to sit with your legs out straight in front of you. So this would be staff pose. So in this, again, you think about your tailbone being tucked underneath you, and I might need to sit back on my blanket, or I might remove my blanket, which kind of ever works for you. But again, the tailbone is sort of underneath. My core is engaged. Shoulders are back and away from the ears. Chin is down so that my crown of the head is parallel. My toes are pointing up and back at me. So these poses are active resting poses is what they're called. So my legs are very active. And even though I'm holding in here, I'm relaxed up here. So there's no tension in my muscles up through my upper body here. Now the benefits of this for your body are it improves your posture, stretches your legs out, strengthens your spine. Now, things that you want to watch out for here is if you have lower back pain or even tight hamstrings. This could cramp up your hamstrings. I can even feel right in here. But this is another pose that you could sit in when you first start your yoga practice if you're starting in a seated position. Another seated position that you could go into is hero pose. And hero pose, you kind of got your knees together here and you're kind of sitting sort of out, your feet are kind of out on either side of you. You could, if this feels sort of good, but it's a little bit too much on your knees, you could roll this up and sort of put it between to help support, or you could use a block. Now, obviously, if you have bad knees, this isn't going to work for you, or even ankles. But right now, it actually feels kind of good to me. Benefits of this pose are it stretches out the thighs, knees, and ankles. Now, any of these, because we're engaging the core, believe it or not, we're working those muscles, even just sitting here like this. So anything that is active, you're working those muscles. This helps with your spine. So especially in our world today, not with all the things going on, I'm not talking about current events, just in the 21st century. We sit in front of the TV, we sit on our electronics, we sit at our computers, and we're like this. And regularly practicing yoga helps to keep your spine straight. So my mom, before she passed, was really starting to hunch over like this. And I, before she got sick, had her going to a chair yoga class, which she absolutely loved, because I wanted her to try to open up, because she had such bad lower back pain because she was putting so much pressure that it affected her lower back. So, in these poses, a lot of times we will start marrying the breath and our movement together. So we may inhale, bring our arms up overhead. So an extension, and exhale, we bring it back down. So the contraction. Inhale, extension, and what this does is it gets the blood flowing. Exhale, warms up the muscles, gets the blood flowing. Inhale, and it makes us think about what we're doing. So we actually have to think about what we're doing. Exhale. And maybe we even go inhale and exhale. We start, so I always like to start with our 6 movements of our spine to get our spine warmed up. Inhale, arms up, come to center. Exhale, twist over to the other side. Don't knock over the TV. So my left hand is on the floor right behind my tailbone. My right hand is engaged on the side of left side of my knee. I inhale to lengthen, and I exhale to deepen the twist. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bring the right hand down. Left hand comes up over the head. So this is one of the spine stretches. My shoulders are even, so my upper body, if you think about being between two panes of glass here, you're not dipping one way or the other, and maybe you even look up at your arm. And then exhale, inhale, left arm comes down, right arm comes up and over. Exhale, inhale, come up, bring both hands together. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bring your palms down to your knees. Tuck your chin in, tuck your tailbone in, arch that back. This is a sitting cat pose. Feels really good, stretching those back muscles and really working that spine, those shoulder muscles. Then inhale, roll your shoulders back, chin, chest comes up, tailbone comes out for cow, cow position. One more time, inhale, tuck it all in, and then exhale, push it out. Inhale, come back to neutral. And then exhale. Now, let's find our way standing, and we'll go through mountain pose. I'm going to move my blanket out of the way. Going to work through my knees. Sitting in that hero pose was a little bit hard on my knees. I should have moved sooner. In a mountain pose, we're going to, I had my spot marked and I lost it, but that's okay. I can talk through this one. Oh, here it goes. All right. So mountain. Our feet are typically hip distance apart. And think about your feet having four corners. So one corner is the inner big toe, the inner heel, outer big toe. So you want the weight to be evenly distributed on either foot. So sometimes I just like to lift my toes up and really feel the ground underneath my feet. And know that I am standing evenly balanced. And you want your toes to be pointing forward. I know sometimes, everybody's different. So sometimes think about when you walk and where your feet are when you walk. And your feet may not always be right out in front of you. And over time that causes issues in your joints. So think about your feet being right directly under your hips. And we all have different width of hips. So one person, their stance may appear to be bigger than the other. So don't worry about what is happening around you if you're in with other people. Just do what feels right to you. And you want your toes to be pointing forward. So that was something I really had to work on because I think mine kind of went to the side just a little bit. So my feet are firmly planted on the mat, and I am thinking about that the energy is really, so my feet are sort of pushing down into the earth, if you will. I am really actively engaging up from the soles of my feet up all the way without locking my knees in. Tailbone's tucked in, core is engaged so that belly button is in toward the spine. Shoulders are rolled back away from the ears. Your palms should actively just come forward because your chest is nice and open. Chin comes down so that your crown of your head is parallel to the ceiling. I'm going to come to the side so you can kind of see the profile. So if I were just standing what is a normal posture for me, I might be like this. And believe it or not, it causes discomfort in my back and my shoulders and my neck. So I have to, but you also don't want to like push in so far that you're, you know, like Urkel. So you want the tailbone in, core is engaged, shoulders are back away from the ears, chin comes down toward the chest. So you've got a nice straight spine from the crown of your head down to the bottom of your tailbone. That's what mountain pose is. This is a resting active pose. We get in this position, and I like to start my practices oftentimes standing because it's an active position. It's not too many people start their practice that way. And you have to kind of think about what you're doing, and it helps you to create that mindfulness, I think. So I've got my eyes closed. Maybe you gently lower your gaze. You may start your breath here. We've already done it seated. This is mountain. Tall mountain, you bring your arms up overhead. Drop your shoulders down away from the ears. Think about if you had a big old beach ball between your hands. So you're not crunching up this way. You want space. You're creating space. So you've got this big beach ball that you're holding up overhead. I see my fingers are nice and wide and open as well. I'm creating space. I'm taking up my fair share of space in this universe right here. This is my space. Tall mountain. Take a nice deep inhale, and then exhale, bring your hands to heart center. So that's it for this practice. Hopefully this was helpful for you. So breath, movement, we went over the 6 movements of the spine. I'll go into that a little bit more as we move along. We talked about the different ways that you could start a yoga practice, or anytime you end up in a seated position in a yoga practice, what your options are. And we talked about mountain and tall mountain. Also know that you can do any of these things in a chair. So if sitting on the floor is not a good thing for you because you have difficulty getting up and down, you could bring in a chair and you could practice those things in a chair. And you could practice tall mountain in a chair as well. So just know that. And one thing I did want to mention too, when I'm in tall mountain, you're thinking about 2 opposing forces here. So even though I'm not forcing my arms up, I really want to extend my fingers up toward the sky and my feet really planted firmly on the ground. So I've got 2 opposing forces actively working in my body here. All right. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you tomorrow.